Hey guys, welcome to today's video, and just on a topic about something that most people just never get around to. You know what it's like, life can be busy, you've got your list of tasks, go do the shopping, hang out the clothes, get to the gym, and then of course, write a will and testament. It's just one of those jobs that always seems to fall to the absolute back of the list. So today's video is going to be with an interview with a local lawyer here in Southeast Asia who can write wills and testaments in English and also get them translated into your local language, which can be recognized in most common law jurisdictions, which is fantastic. Before we even start the video today though, guys, if you don't have a will and testament, I want you to do one thing for me. Pause the video now, go to your diary or wherever you keep your big long task of things to do and put in get a will and testament. That way you can really start to put actions or thoughts into actions and plans and get it done. For me, I think you actually need 3 key documents to completely protect yourself legally. The first one would be a living will and testament, especially necessary in some Buddhist countries. That tells people what to do with your body should you become permanently incapacitated. The second document is a power of attorney. So that way, if you do become incapacitated, other people can then get control and management, obviously wherever you wish them to, for your assets. So that way, if you've got money in the bank but you're in the hospital, somebody else can go and get the money out and help you. The third document is obviously the will and testament. So that's what we're going to be covering off today, guys. I hope you like the interview today, and have a good one, guys. As always, this video isn't meant to be taken as legal advice. If you are in the market for some legal services, please seek a licensed and regulated professional. Okay, Bruce, thank you very much for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and chat to us. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
No worries. Now, you have been working with expats in Southeast Asia for quite a number of years now as a lawyer. I guess, can you give us the main rundown on what it is you do and how you help people?
So thanks. So I do many things in the legal field, but one of the core areas that I focus on is helping to ensure that expats in the sort of the Southeast Asia region are covered when it comes to probate matters, or what we often refer to as wills or last wills and testaments.
Is there any components or what goes together to make a good will?
So one of the things that we have found is that we have a lot of people living out in this region. They come from different parts of the world, and either they don't think of having these documents, or they have them and sometimes they're not as sufficient as we really think they need to be and know they need to be. So we think about the sort of the core components of what should be in a will. Now, in saying this, it's important to give general information, because in each jurisdiction you're in each country you're in, there can be specific laws. With that said, many countries, or most countries within this region, have core elements that really should be in any will, no matter what country you're in. And then you should look at the specific legalities of the country that you're in.
Yep. So do expats always need a will in their home country as well as the country they live in? Do you need the will in the jurisdictions where your assets reside? Say, for example, if you had an account in another country but no other ties except for an investment account, do you need a will and testament in that area as well, in that country as well? Or
it's a great question. So often, I would say that if you have substantial assets in a certain country, it probably is good to have a will in that country. However, there is a Hague Convention on Wills, and many countries have subscribed to it, meaning that if they are a member of this convention and you have a will in one country, they will recognize that will in another country. So it's important to kind of look at what country you're in and what country you may have substantial assets. You want to err on the side of caution, it may be best to have a will in each country as long as the wills don't conflict, because sometimes there could be very sloppy drafting and the will in one country will conflict with another country and the will in the other country, and that just creates a nightmare.
Because I know that a large part of your job is effectively to fix a lot of the mistakes that you see. Hopefully clients come to you before it's too late, because I know that obviously once you've shuffled off this mortal coil, any mistakes in your estate planning become infinitely more difficult to fix. Would that be a fair description of your job position?
Absolutely. I often I will say to clients that they shouldn't make a will because it's much more expensive to not have a will than to have a will. If a will is done correctly and it's not just downloaded off the internet, and it's actually thought through with people that are legally trained, that's really the best way to do it. And I can tell you that I spent a significant amount of time fixing wills and documents, often and unfortunately after people pass away. So I'm working with their family and trying to follow their intent before they die, and it makes it very challenging if the will is drafted improperly or incorrectly. And that's really sad when that happens, because you may make a will, you want your assets to go a certain way, but because you just didn't take a little extra time in ensuring that it's drafted properly, it really is the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth much more than a pound of cure.
Yeah. Is this a scenario where you might have gone to, a fantastic lawyer in your home country, whether that be Australia, UK, America, wherever you come from, and had a really top shelf will written, and then maybe gone to another country and had a supplementary will drawn up to incorporate maybe a new property or even something small, like your favorite local charity, and to have supplementary will actually override your master will and testament. Can that ever happen, or?
It happens all the time. And in fact, often you'll work with people in your country of origin that are really good at drafting wills, but they don't think beyond the jurisdiction of their country. So they'll often have language in the will that says that, this will applies to all assets. Then you'll move to another country. Maybe you move to this region, you draft another will, and then you may go back to your country of origin and draft a supplemental will back home, back in your country of origin, but you only want it to apply to those assets. And the solicitor or the lawyer back home includes the wrong language and says that this will replaces all other wills. And all of a sudden, you've got this conflict that goes on. So it's really, really important to make sure that the will that you're drafting applies to specifically your assets where you want them to apply and does not conflict with another document or instrument that you have drafted in the past, or you may draft in the future. So for instance, you may get married, and in a number of jurisdictions around the world, if you get married and you have a will, the marriage immediately invalidates a prior will that was made before marriage. So Australia is one of those countries.
Did not know
and
that.
Really it's true. Australia, New Zealand, and other countries. So you have to be really specific. You're getting married, you make a new will. Do you want that new will to apply only to the country that you're living in with your wife? Do you want another one? These are all these things that you must consider.
And in your opinion, what components or what aspects go together to create a good will and testament plan? What are the key components or the key documents you'd say clients need?
Firstly, it's important to think about if you're going to make a will, and you should make a will, who you want to manage the will after you die. For instance, we call that in certain jurisdictions an executor, a personal representative. You really need to pick someone who is competent and who you trust. And we say someone who is usually younger than you and in better health, because you don't want that person dying before you do. Secondly, You, secondly,
So like an
you
executor
want to
or
have,
power of attorney?
well, that's it applies to all these other documents too, and people that you need to trust, you know. Secondly, you want to have a backup. You know, if that person that you appoint is unable or unwilling to be the executor, you want to have someone who you can rely on in case that person can't do it. And you want to discuss the powers and what you're empowering this person to do with that person. I've seen too many times people leave someone as an executor in a will and does not discuss what their intent was in the will, and it's a real punishment to the person that you're entrusting to follow out your wishes. So that's the first thing: is you need a good executor,
Yeah.
and someone who understands this. Secondly, you want to think about, you know, what assets the will applies to and where, and we mentioned that before, and that's important. And if you have specific assets that you want to go to someone, or you're really clear about that. And then that gets into what we call the beneficiaries, and those are the people that you're leaving your assets to. Some people may leave all of their assets to one person, or some people may, you know, decide to divide these assets up. It's really important to be as clear as possible what you want done. You don't have to list with specificity all your assets in the will, because from the time you make the will to the time you die, those assets may have changed. But if you want to specifically leave a particular asset, whether it's a piece of jewelry, it could be a mirror in your house, you want to be clear about that. And be clear as to who the beneficiaries are that you want these assets to go to.
Yeah.
With that, you need to envision the situation where what happens if this beneficiary, this person who you're leaving your assets to, dies before you do. What do you want to have happen to those assets? Do you want it to go to their heirs, meaning the person that who would inherit their estates?
Yeah. Through
And
their
their
chain of
assets?
testacy.
Right. Or do you want it to go to someone else? So you could say, if this person dies, I want it to go to my other beneficiaries. And you need to be really clear about that.
So good executor, be clear. Should you have like a living will and testament as well as a final will and testament, and kind of what's the difference between the two?
So that's a great question. So they're very different. And in fact, a living will has really nothing to do with your assets. And a living will is called different things in different countries. They're called a do not resuscitate and other things. Living wills are really documents that go to your medical care. It's not about what happens to your assets when you die. A living will empowers someone, if you're in fact terminal and you're not able to communicate, or you're brain dead and you're not able to communicate, it empowers another person to agree to either provide you or not provide you medical care that may keep you alive. And that's what a living will is, as opposed to a will. A will is all about your property and assets after you die. A living will is a document that helps to protect you while you're still alive, but allows you to die with dignity.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And power of attorney, is that an executor? Are they different? Do you need a power of attorney, or will the executor do?
So again, a power of attorney and a will are different. And the power of attorney is much more similar to what we call a living will. A power of attorney is a document that applies while you're alive. If you pass away, it ends. And a power of attorney is a document that gives power that you have to someone else to do things for you. It could be a limited power. It could be selling a car. It could be doing a real estate action, or it could be a general power of attorney. And really what the purpose of a power of attorney is, it gives someone else the power to do for you, because in certain situations it's not convenient or you're unable to do. And a power of attorney, you need to be careful with them, because you need to trust the people that you give them to. But if you do that and you have people that you do trust, power of attorneys are so vitally important, especially if you become incapacitated and unable to take care of yourself. And it gives someone the power to do financial transactions for you, medical decisions for you, and other things. And again, if given to people that you trust and will use that power correctly, it's something that is just vitally helpful for you while you're alive. The will, again, is after you die and what happens to your intent with your assets after you pass away.
Great. It sounds like that obviously you're all across this as a topic. It's been something which for me is super important. I think it for myself, for my family, it makes a core of one of those things where so many people just don't think about it or don't put the attention in, or it's, nobody gets up on a Saturday morning and goes, you know what, I'm going to do a will and testament today. It's just one of those absolute back of the mind things. Given that's the case, and given, we're sat here with an expert right now, maybe you could walk us through some of the practical examples and problems and pitfalls and red flags you've seen in clients, obviously not giving any names or any specifics, but can you tell us some of the major things that people get wrong and what the outcomes of
I can give you an example without getting into names, or, we'll have a client who had a will in two countries, had a will in their country of origin, moved, got married, had a will, was married, the person's spouse died, moved to another country, remarried, and made a will, and the assets of that will applied to one country. And then this same person had bank accounts in another country. And in this other country, the law of that country said that if you remarry and you don't have a will, your assets in that country go under what they call their intestate law, which was very different to the law that the person wanted their assets to go to. So while this person wanted their assets to be divided up a certain way after they died, because they didn't have a new will in this country where they had money in the bank, the assets were divided up very different than what the person intended. It still went to people that the person wanted them to go to, but not necessarily in the shares that the person wanted them to go to. And I think that, that's just one of many examples of not following the intent of, what a person wants when they're alive and how they want their assets to be transferred on.
And I guess this becomes even more complex in jurisdictions where people have property assets, because obviously there's a whole heap of different laws. It's a physical asset rather than something which can be liquidated and transferred.
It is true. I mean, property is really, can be incredibly complicated. Many people if you're an expat and you live in a country, you may not be able to own property, but your spouse can, and yet you may have a possessory interest in property, and you need to see how that passes. Some people have property with long-term leases. They don't actually own it. And in their will, they don't actually specify how they want their possessory interest to be passed on. And so when they die, their heirs don't get any of this property interest. Another area is about children. And you really need to be thinking about in your will, what happens to your assets and as they apply to your children. And if children are under the age of majority, they're not adults, who's going to take care of those assets? And in many countries you have trusts, but some countries don't allow trusts. And so you really need to be thinking about many of these issues when you're drafting out these documents, because it really does impact people that you care and love for.
Yeah, fantastic advice. Well, thank you very much for the time today, Bruce. We noticed you've got a bit of a backdrop there. Do you want to give us a quick plug for the work that you're doing at the moment?
I sure do. So in addition to being a lawyer, I'm a lawyer in the United States. I've been licensed in the state of Florida for many years, going on 3 decades. Another area that I focus on through an organization called Babsicle, it's a nonprofit, is we help to strengthen and promote the idea of pro bono and access to justice really globally. And each year, our organization, with many others, helps to organize an Asia Pro Bono and Access to Justice Exchange Conference. This year, it will be held in Laos. It's the 10th anniversary. And we're very excited about that, to see this growing movement of lawyers and others in the justice sector really helping to strengthen access to justice and rule of law. And this banner in the background, if you've been to Laos, you'll recognize the Patusai Monument. But this conference will be from the 21st to the 28th of September this year, physically and virtually as need be because of the times that we're in. But we're very excited about it and very honored to be a part of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Bruce. Really appreciate it. And obviously the work that you guys do for expats in the Southeast Asian region is fantastic. Like always, this is not to be taken as legal advice or financial advice. If you do need to get will and testament done, please seek a lawyer who's licensed and regulated in your jurisdiction to make sure you get the outcome that you want and need. Thank you very much for your time, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Bye-bye.
And that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you found it informative and you got some take homes. Once again, if you didn't pause the video early, to go to your diary and put it in to get a will and testament or update your will and testament if you need to, go and get that done today, guys. So that way you're talking thoughts into actions and you can really start to build yourself a good retirement and sleep well at night. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to get more informational, educational videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.